Hello and welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. Today I wanted to share the first 6 months of my garden planner, which is an N1 Sterling Ink common planner, compact in the horizontal layout. First, let me talk about this cover for a second. This is a Sojourner 𝗦𝘃𝗍𝗍 sized cover. It is in the I think it's called Wheatley leather. It's one of my favorite leathers she's ever done. It marks beautifully. It's super buttery. Yeah, I don't think it's available anymore. Sorry. This charm is a pressed flower in glass that I got from Michael's, and I felt it was very appropriate to attach to a garden planner. And it is honestly one of my favorite charms that I have. So definitely keep this with this planner for now. And then I have a little card insert, which was sent to me from a pen pal. So Mary, if you watch this, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed seeing this kind of just pop into the pocket here and sit here as like a little bit of decoration. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything else in here other than a pencil board, which I was using as a straight edge. But this is the cover of the planner. I do have this in a clear cover as well. And yeah, I've liked it so far, for sure. I am going to take it out of the cover just so we can look at it from a chunk perspective. And I'm going to set the leather cover to the side. Chunk perspective wise, this planner is fluffy, and it's because I stick a bunch of stuff in the back, which I will showcase when we get there. But I definitely have liked using my garden planner this year in a bigger size. So before I start the flip, I do want to talk about previous years. I have used a 𝗦𝘃𝗍𝗍𝗶 Weeks, which is much smaller. I decided to get up and grab my old one. So this is the 2023. So this is the 𝗦𝘃𝗍𝗍𝗶 Weeks size compared to the N1 size or the standard TN size. It is clearly much taller and much wider, and I have found that the first half of the year the space was definitely nice, but towards I guess like May or June, which I'll get there when we flip, I did end up thinking I just didn't need this planner anymore. But I'll talk a bit more about that in a little bit. Opening up, I have not made any changes to the setup of this planner other than the weeklies. The opening pages are still the same, and so is the year at a glance. So the year at a glance, I was tracking precipitation. Blue dots are for rainy days, purple dots are for snow, and then I also have the first and last spring frost and fall frost denoted on here, which helps me see, okay, I can start planting by this date, so I need to have everything kind of ready for transplants, or I need to have everything harvested by this date when the predicted first frost would be. Obviously, this is the predicted dots, like by the Farmer's Almanac, which uses astrology and a whole bunch of other data to predict these things. But I also check the weather weekly to kind of forecast when I need to do things as well. After that, this planner has a 2-page blank spread. I ended up sketching out what my garden layout is and how everything kind of ended up being planted. I never went back in to color this in, and at this point in the year, I don't really feel like it anymore. Maybe that'll change, but I think just having it sketched out in pencil has worked just fine, and I don't need to go back in and make this a painting with watercolor or ink or anything. I can just leave it the way it is. Then for the goals pages, I covered everything up and turned this into a planting grow time table. Basically have a list of veggies and fruits, if you will, because I think tomatoes technically are a fruit. And then I have a grow time of like what months they would be starting at, finishing at, based on a different highlighter color. I like this. I took this from a spreadsheet that I have on my computer, and I think I would definitely incorporate this in future garden planners, but I will say it is not necessarily necessary since I have this information in a digital format as well. So just kind of did this to fill in the space, I think. Quarterly pages have been the same for the first half of the year, so I denoted each quarter depending on a season, first quarter being winter, considering January and February are usually freezing months for us here in Texas, and March is usually the month that we can actually start planting outside. depending on how the weather goes. And then for the months down here, I separated this into 2 columns. So we have a planted column and a harvested column. The planted column would be what I did plant, whether it be starting from seed indoors or planting straight outside in the ground, or anything like that. And then harvested would be anything I have cut from the garden to bring inside to eat or preserve. Okay, then for the other side is weather tracking. So I have the high and the low temperature every single day. And then the key for this, I have actually pulled out and put into my main common planner for the 1 month July challenge that I'm doing. But essentially the cooler toned colors are for colder temperatures and the warmer toned colors are for hot temperatures. I will re-reference my old planner. This is what it looked like in the Hobonichi weeks, and I love that it's all on 1 page. I think I would prefer it to be on 1 page like this again, but I like the bigger size of the standard. So I don't know if I'd be willing to sacrifice this. I may end up going back to Hobonichi weeks and just adding pages in. I haven't decided yet. Anyways, for quarter 1, this is what we looked like, and then quarter 2, this is what we looked like. So not a whole lot difference other than obviously temperature change from cooler temperatures to warmer temperatures. Then moving on into the monthly pages, I ended up using this as a space to denote events that are happening in the garden, astrology, and then also like major dates that reoccur. So like when we're fleet treating our pets, and then towards the end of the quarter 1 when we got our chickens and stuff like that. I also have a planting list here, which is something that again I have pulled from previous garden planners. Everything is denoted in a different color based on what I could plant. So like the darkest green being indoor planting to the lightest green being transplanting outdoors. Since I am in zone 8, I can plant pretty much year round if I wanted to, depending on what it is I'm planting. But having this list here definitely gives me a brief idea of like, okay, what do I want to plan out to grow this year? And then I just continue that for every single month so far in this planner. I will say that I don't know how I feel about continuing in this planner after 6 months, just because I think I can include this information into my main book now. But I think it's because the point in the season that I'm at, with June just being a little bit slow, I'm just waiting for things to finish harvesting. And once that happens, things pick up again for me. I don't know. I've been struggling with this planner for sure. Anyways, moving on into the weekly section. In the beginning of the year, I did really well by using this as a section to track the weather, a section for my daily tasks, a section for egg counting, a section for notes, a routine, which is basically, you know, watering, taking care of the animals, what I'm doing on what days, not necessarily habits that I'm trying to track that I'm doing every single day, but just seeing the different tasks that I am doing on which day. So I can regularly see, okay, I need to do water every Wednesday or clean the coop every Friday, whatever. And then I have a master list here. So this has been the basic format from the beginning of the year. I did do minor tweaks on like where I positioned things. So I moved the egg counter to the right page versus the left page. And then there was some days that I didn't do weather and some days that I didn't do routines or master list. It just depended on what I had going on. I will say that at the beginning of the year, this much space, having all of this room and setting everything up was very, very helpful. And I think it's because I was doing a lot of prep work for the spring when everything would be planted. And then once spring hit in March/April this year for us, I ended up not using as much space. Like I didn't need all of the space, which brings me back to, do I know or care to think about what I want to do in the future for a garden planner, if I want to go back to a Hobonichi weeks, or if I want to continue in a bigger size like this, which again, I have not decided. But yeah, so April here, I wrote all the basics. This is when I started falling off using this for planning because I was doing the same tasks every single day and it just felt very repetitive, and then I didn't really need to write them down. And then towards the end of May, yeah, not a lot going on. I think I just kind of gave up using this in general and just kind of wrote down only the basics of what I needed and then left everything else blank. So yeah, this was the end of May, which it literally rained all week. Yeah, so if it rained all week, I can't really do anything with the garden other than just pay attention to it. So I didn't have anything to write down. Beginning of June, it looks like the same thing happened here as well. And then I think I stopped using it in June entirely. Yeah, so I think what I learned for myself so far in the first 6 months of this planner is that I didn't need to have this much space once everything was already planned out. Which brings me to, do I only want to use a monthly kind of book instead of a weekly, or do I still want to have a weekly? 6 months in the year, I don't know how I feel, because in the previous books, like the 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗍 weeks that I've used, this is the second year, 2023 I think was the second year that I used a 𝗦𝘂𝗍 weeks. I really liked how everything ended up in this book. But this year in the N1, for some reason, I am very much struggling with it. And I don't know if it's because it's more space, which is something I've talked about in other videos, that I struggle with the use of space. I don't like blank pages, so I'm wondering if that's part of my problem. Anyways, in the back pages of the Sterling ink planners, which I've talked about in probably every video, it's basically just a bunch of blank notes. So for the first section of the blank notes, I did my weekly summaries. This is something that I have not been able to have in previous books easily because I usually run out of pages, but with this I had enough and enough space. So I decorated the outside with, again, the Washi Tape Shop's floral tapes. I love their tapes and they have really good sales, and I am an affiliate with them, so if you want to use code Danielle10 to save some money, you could easily do that as well. I am an ambassador for them, like I said, but I truly love their product. Truly love their product. But yeah, so I did my weeklies, like synopsis of what went on. So when I look back at this planner, I could read this and have a designation of, okay, January was hard, February was hard, March was great, or whatever. So I like having everything kind of separated out in a weekly format like this too, for me to read, versus having a daily journal entry about my garden, because on a day-to-day basis I don't think there's enough going on for me to really write about it unless just something insane happens, and in which case I'd probably make an exception and write something pretty serious. But weekly is more likely to be the case of what I want to journal about in my garden in general. I also like that I used a different color per month. Again, I've been trying to do that a lot in my planners this year, having a correlating color by month, and it definitely has been fun to see kind of the breakdown of how it looks, and plus I get to use a bunch of colors, which I really enjoy. And then the second notes section in this book is kind of where I make more notes. So like for January, these were the seeds that I started indoors, and then I made a little section of how many days it's going to take to harvest, and then I also pasted in a currently growing die cut from my shop and made a note that I need to order more seeds that I ran out of Roma, tomatillo seeds, and cayenne seeds. So I'll need to order some more of those in the winter of this year for next year's planting. And then in February, when we got our flock, our new chicks and ducks that my boyfriend sneakily put into our basket, I wanted to make sure to document their growth. So I took pictures of them as babies, and then over the months, I also documented like their different stages of life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This next couple of pages here is the design for the chicken coop we had to build. We went from having 8 chickens last year to losing almost the whole flock except for 2, and then getting 10 chickens again, and then 4 ducks. So we needed a bigger coop to accommodate everybody. So this was the general sketch of what we wanted to build. My boyfriend actually had more blueprints and stuff in his books, so I didn't want to include that in here too, but I just wanted to have a document of, okay, this is what everything's going to end up generally looking like. Then in March, I ended up taking more photos again of how the chicks had been growing. So this was them at 1 month with their garden time. They were fully feathered out, ready to go. And we had really nice weather, so they got to spend some time outside. And we got our ducks a little pool to play in, and it was so much fun watching them splash around. And then I ended up saving some feathers that came off of some of our chicks. This is from the barred rocks. They're like black with white spots, I guess, and I thought they were really pretty and fun to keep in here. And then April is when I planted out more seeds in the garden. I did a little May update, which wasn't really a lot to write down because we had a very wet May. It rained so much. And then one of our ducks produced this perfect feather. Like I didn't pull this off of them. It was on the ground like this, I promise. And I wanted to save it because it was just like the most perfect shape. I don't know. And then in June, I did another progress report of where our boys are at, I guess. So we determined we ended up getting 2 boy ducks and 2 girl ducks, which I know nothing about ducks. Again, this was not necessarily my choice to get them. So if you have any advice on duck raising, please let me know. It's a little late for me at this point. We are stuck with them, and I would love to have any tips if you got any. But we also found out one of the chicks that we thought was going to be a girl ended up being a boy, and so we ended up with a rooster. And he is, let's just say, I've been bit, my boyfriend has been bit. He is not necessarily the nicest, and we were working really hard to get him to warm to us. We did handle everybody as babies, but we think just because he's a bit more of an aggressive breed of rooster, that we may end up with some problems. But yeah, this is a picture of him. We named him Naruto or Naru because he runs like the anime character, and it's just hilarious. Anyways, this other page is just a little like list of things that I needed to buy. And that's pretty much it for June, like the first 6 months of use in this planner. So after 6 months, I'm on page 75 out of 121. This back section I was supposed to use as an inbox of different projects that I need to get done throughout the year, and it is blank. I never filled it out. It's all on a list on my fridge, if I'm being honest. I just never transferred it to this book. But yeah, I do think that having this many notes pages is what I want in future garden planners if I keep these books in separate categories, which, knowing myself, I likely will. But I definitely think having this many notes pages is important to me. So even if I don't stick with something this size, like I steer away from the N1 or the standard size notebook and go back to like a Hobonichi week size, I think I would definitely want to have more notes pages. So I'd probably go for like a Hobonichi Weeks Mega, or maybe one of the other companies that offer a toner paper similar to this size, maybe even like a Paper Test Designs, or oh gosh, what's the other one? I'm blanking on what it is, but you'll probably tell me in the comments anyways. All that being said, I have definitely enjoyed having a garden planner again this year. It has been very helpful for at least the first quarter of the year. I think I have learned that there's definitely cycles throughout the year that I don't have as much going on, and it has been really great to see some of the really creative ideas that come at me in the comments from you guys. I think I especially loved the comment that someone suggested whenever I go out, I collect things and bring them back in and paste them into the planner. Even if I'm not planning anything that week, I just have a record of fun things that I found. I think that is so creative and so fun. And I definitely think I may do that after my One Book July challenge, because again, I think I've talked about this in other videos. I don't know if the one book totality is for me. At the time I'm filming this, it's already like 1 week into July and 1 week into that challenge, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, I'm gonna leave the video off here. If you have any questions about this planner or my garden or anything, please feel free to chat about it with me in the comments. You can always send me an email too. I'm always happy to chat that way if comments are not really your style. But yeah, thanks again so much for watching, for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the summer weather if you're having any near you, or if you have cooler weather, just know that I'm very jealous and envious that you don't sweat the second you walk outside. All that being said, have a good one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and bye.